Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome back to Let's Play Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Nye. It's 9:42 a.m. on Wednesday, May 13th, 2020. No news, basically as usual. Talk shows are the topic of the day from Isabelle. And we're going to be getting back to the more lighthearted commentary as of today. So no more heavy topics, at least for a short while. I was walking on just a walk with my dog today. What's Broccola have to say? Guess what, Sunflower? It's time for a riddle. What did the cake say while cutting the onion? I am in tears. From Broccola. Wow. I don't think I can top that. I think that's it for the day. We are officially done. Goodbye. I love you all. No, as I was walking my dog today, I remembered something I used to do, which is use the take a note feature on Android phones. You open up the Android Assistant and just utter the phrase, take a note. And the assistant will, use voice to text to drag whatever it is that you say into text, and then it emails you with that, which is pretty darn useful, I have to say. As long as you can kind of understand what it is you said in the past. Which sometimes you may have a little bit more use than others, but I generally get pretty lucky with that. Usually I can understand what's being said. But yeah, I was using that as I was kind of walking, because just, it was those shower thoughts that hit my head, and I decided, you know what, now's time to bring that back. A number of years ago, as I was doing a bunch of playthroughs of The Binding of Isaac, I'm sitting on something and it's hurting my butt. As I was doing a number of playthroughs of The Binding of Isaac, doing a number of runs of that, I used to have a list of notes of conversational topics to read through, and oh, that was right, I was going to put some stuff away. And I used to just look at that, and the notes would just tell me, a topic to run on for the day, instead of trying to think of something immediately before starting an episode, before starting to talk. And I'm gonna be picking that back up again. So, good news with this is it means that I am very likely to have less charged conversational topics, which may or may not be a good thing, depending on your point of view. But one thing I was thinking about as I was walking is the concept of suspension of disbelief as a powerful force. I find it to be an incredibly powerful thing to be able to use in, Actually, before I do that, we're gonna grab oranges. Because I actually specifically need oranges. And you'll see why in a minute. But I like the concept of suspension of disbelief as a powerful force. It's something I think about. Because you can use a suspension of disbelief. It is a power you can use whenever you're trying to just, oh, darn it. It's a power you can use whenever you're trying to just enjoy something. Be it a movie, a book, a video game. There's a bunch of stuff that'll happen in whatever it is that you're looking at. Whatever form of media that you choose to consume for the day. Ooh. We got some stuff today. What is this? A throwback container. Okay. We also have an arcade machine. An arcade combat game. Space Blaster. Yoink. And you know what? We're also going to grab this standing light. The folding floor lamp, apparently. These are all things I just do not have in my catalog. I don't think I have the camp stove either. So we'll go ahead and bring that up to the campsite. Yeah, let's grab ourselves a shovel. But suspension of disbelief, I think, is a very powerful force, and I think it's something that that some people have trouble, I guess, accessing in their everyday life. The ability to just kind of... I keep on pressing the button to talk to them about this. I should be pressing the other button. The button that says, go the hell away and let me do what I want to do. But suspension of disbelief is a very, very powerful force. What are turnip prices today? 70 bells per turnip. I didn't get any turnips for the day, but I have friends who did. So let's see. Okay. Just kind of keeping track in case they get something good. But I find it to be a very powerful force. It's an amazing thing that you can use, both for being able to enjoy yourself. You can use it to kind of non-critically look at something for a while. You can use it. It's a string outfit that's in there. We'll go look at that later. I kind of want to leave that tree there. Let's see, what's this one? That was a money tree. Okay, I'm comfortable getting rid of that. But you can use it to non-critically look at something, be it a, you know, a form of media or a, you know, a video game, something like that, or listening to someone's argument as they try to convince you of something. I think that's another potential use for it. But suspension of disbelief, for those of you who don't know the term, is probably something that you're actually decently familiar with. And it's something that you would do normally. Like, this is something that you you know, probably have done all your life, and you just didn't realize this was a thing that you were doing. But suspensions of disbelief means... Okay, Sahara's here today. That, you kind of... well, first of all, it's exactly what it says it is. So it means that you have stopped yourself from disbelieving something. You have prevented yourself from having that kind of common response to something that maybe doesn't make sense or runs contrary to your knowledge of the world or something like that. It's especially important in lots of video games and fantasy fiction. So suspension of disbelief is, you know, watching a, you know, it's watching a medieval combat movie, something like, let's say, Lord of the Rings, and saying, you know, and it's not saying something, it's specifically not saying, man, they didn't use those weapons like that. It's specifically not saying, how the hell does Legolas land every single one of those arrows? It's not saying, man, I know that gun that he's using only has 12 bullets in its magazine. How did he fire 15 without reloading? Suspension of disbelief is this immediate cessation, this immediate turning off of that part of your brain that says, this doesn't work the way they're doing it. So you are suspending your disbelief. And I think that's a really powerful force. I don't think it's something that a lot of people can just kind of do. Because the suspension of disbelief, I think, it extends to more than just, I guess, your disbelief that something works that way. So, you know, you look at you might look at, you know, an announcement for a video game. So, you know, a lot of people right now are, what is that game called? A lot of people are really, really looking forward to Cyberpunk 2077. And there's a lot of these, you know, promises going around about this game. You know, them talking about all these things they're going to do. So, as a person who worked in video game retail for a long time, you know, I'm very familiar with promises being made by a developer for stuff that they will do in a video game. features that they will have, things that you will see. And part of that, part of me is critical whenever I hear things from a video game developer nowadays, partially because I'm so very used to being disappointed. I've seen a lot of video games that promise something that they had kind of effectively no way to actually make real. There's the developers that say, stuff is randomly generated. No, it's procedurally generated, and I know that. But every run will be different, say some developers, especially for roguelike video games. We hear open world video games that you will have hundreds and thousands of hours of content. And that's very true if you were to investigate every little thing on the map, but the problem is most of it is very similar to other things, so you're very much not likely to see that. But a part of me, as a gamer, as someone who loves to play video games, I love this form of media. It's a great thing for me. Some of me wants to suspend that disbelief, to go, you know what, maybe this is the developer that will show me something new. Maybe they do have an all-new form of, what's the word they use? Of, traversal. Maybe it is an all-new and innovative form of combat. Now, sometimes suspension of disbelief you have to actually be actively thinking about. So I think that's something that a lot of people have trouble with, is that they do have to actively kind of turn that portion of their brain off, disconnect from the portions of themselves that do actually disbelieve. And that's hard for some people. Some people are very much grounded in reality and significantly have that issue. I think that part of it is the more you know about a given topic, the harder it is. So I know that there's some people I know, or some like authors that I read and such, that they are very big science folks. They're very, very smart, very educated. They know their science backwards, forwards, and upside down. So when they watch a sci-fi movie, it's much harder for them to suspend disbelief about something in the movie, because they know how it actually works. So I think part of it's that. I know that when I was watching war movies, military movies, and so on, or playing war games with my friend Mitch, he's very military. He's always done a lot about planes and guns, such like that. And so in a lot of games that we played, again, flight games or military shooters, let's see, what did we get? So we have lava flooring, which I already had. See if I can get that to a friend. Office wall. Iverson bat mat. Sloppy rug. Imperial tile. That's interesting. Red metal sheet. Security monitors wall. And sloppy rug. I see 1, 2 walls, and 2 floors. Okay. Interesting. But he had a hard time in a lot of things that we did, suspending his disbelief of what we were seeing. A lot of hard time saying, man, there's no way that he could have shot that many guns, shot that many bullets in this scene, or man, that particular plane can't do this thing. But I find suspension of disbelief to be an incredibly powerful thing. Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so that's Imperial tile. What's office wall? Okay, just a bunch of windows, apparently. Okay. How about security monitors wall? Aha! Okay. That's kind of neat. I feel like the light doesn't reflect off. Man, it'd be really neat if you could actually see any of your actual neighbors wandering through the security monitors. Okay. Cool stuff. I'm gonna put my summit wall back up. What do we got with the ivory simple bath mats? Okay, not bad. Sloppy rug. Don't lie to me. Okay. And what's the other one? Red vinyl sheet. Okay. None of those are particularly amazingly interesting to me, not gonna lie. But they do exist. Folding floor lamp. Mounting bike I'm gonna need. Throwback container, let's put away. And this is all stuff I can do other stuff with. I gotta figure out what to do with lava flooring. Okay. So I find suspension of disbelief to be a really powerful thing for someone. And I find I slip into it all too easily. And I think it, for me at least, it goes beyond the simple just, oh, wow, this would never work in real life. I often get beyond that, because one of the big things that I find that I do, at least, is, let's see, you should use an ivory simple bath mat. I did give that to you. And he's gonna give me an instant muscle shirt. Okay, I gotta see this. That sounds interesting. Instant muscles shirt. Oh, neat. Oh, okay, one of those. Okay. Well, I know where that's going. But I also, for me, I tend to slip into suspension of criticism. Now, I don't know if this is necessarily a good thing. But very frequently, I'll find that I don't really have it in me to really criticize a form of media while I'm enjoying it. A number of years ago, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie with Martin Freeman and Zooey Deschanel and the rest, Sam Rockwell, you know, that whole crew. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie came out in theaters, and I was incredibly excited for this movie. I've been a big fan of The Hitchhiker's Guide since I was a young kid, and I discovered it in the bookstore. And, you know, I've read all of the non-Aeon Colfer books many times over. I've enjoyed them. So when I heard that they were going to release a movie, which, you know, at the time I was aware through, you know, comments and videos and online forums and such, just how unlikely people thought that a Hitchhiker's Guide movie would be. You know, they didn't think that we would ever actually see one because of how long it took to actually get this movie to be made. Now, your interest in the Hitchhiker's Guide movie, you know, your mileage may vary. Some people liked it, some people didn't. But I remember we went to a small theater. Not a very popular one, not a very populated one. I think there were only maybe 10 people in there total. It was me, my mom, and we went to watch it. And my mom's familiar with Hitchhiker's Guide, though I don't think nearly as familiar as I was. And I enjoyed watching it. I was, you know, cracking up as I watched how they did the Vogon destruction of Earth. And the whole blaring trumpets and the, you know, camera coming out every note thing that they did, I thought was hysterical. I don't know why I thought that particular action was so damn funny. But I did. I thought it was hysterical. I thought it was the funniest damn thing, and I was cracking up. There's actually people in front of me, I think, who weren't aware of what this movie was. So they're watching Earth get blown up, and they're hearing this, you know, like, I forget how old I was, but they were, you know, they were watching this kid in the back of the theater laughing his head off as the Earth gets destroyed. I think they were kind of concerned. But, you know, I really enjoyed the movie, and while I watched the movie, you know, as I said, I'm a fan of Hitchhiker's Guide, and I have, you know, read all the books, so I know how the book story goes. And while it was a little bit weird, admittedly, that the movie did not necessarily follow the books, you know, it took a lot of the same cues, took a lot of the same plot points, But there were definitely points that the movie did its own thing. It didn't really follow the book storyline. There were a lot of stuff that kind of just did its own thing, which was a little bit weird and a little bit different, but it wasn't bad, and I really enjoyed it. So first of all, my criticism, my willingness to be, well, it didn't follow the movie, didn't do the thing the movie did. My willingness to do that just kind of went away while I was watching this movie. I just sat back and enjoyed it. So there was no criticism from me on that regard. So my suspension of critique kicked in. But, you know, my mom, even though she was aware of the Hitchhiker's Guide, and I think she's a little bit of a fan of the series, if I'm going to be honest, she fell asleep during the movie, which I always find hysterical. She's always told me that, what movie was it? There's a movie that I find really funny. Okay, so she's sick. Let's go get medicine for Renee. What's the movie? There's a movie I find fairly funny that she actually walked out of. It's very lowbrow comedy movie. There's some movie that I found absolutely hysterical, and it's a very lowbrow comedy movie. So I really want to say, you know, we're talking, let's give Boone a bike. No, not like Animal House or anything like that, because I think she actually enjoyed Animal House. Crap. No, for some reason it's still stuck in my mind. I've never had a movie that I felt, okay, hold on. I'll be back. Let me get you off your freaking seat. But I've never felt even the slightest interest in walking out of a movie. There's been movies, so I don't go see movies in theaters very much. But you know, even movies that I was not particularly interested in, I never felt the need or the interest or the want to. No, do not get in that. I never really felt the need or the want to walk out. Even movies like like Star Wars Episode 1 that people rag on. The prequel trilogy, I just do not... Bone! He's being such a jerk right now. But even these movies that people just, like, get angry about, and they're just like, man, these movies are nothing like the originals. I just don't have that. Like, as soon as I decide to sit down and enjoy a piece of media... Okay, Boone. I have a thing for you. And this is absolutely right up your alley. This is an instant muscle shirt, and I cannot wait to see you wear it. Seriously. Hell yes. And I get a guide shirt, okay. But I think that the willingness, the suspension of criticism is also a really important thing. I find that, especially when I'm, you know, again, when I'm enjoying just kind of any piece of media, my suspension of disbelief kicks in, my suspension of criticism kicks in. I just settle in and try to enjoy it. It's not very common that I'll be in the middle of whatever it is that I'm doing. You know, whatever game I'm playing, whatever movie I'm watching, whatever book I'm reading. It's not very common that in the middle of it, or in the middle of a session of it, I think. So in the middle of playing, in the middle of watching, it's not common that in the middle of one of these sessions, I basically say to myself, okay, I'm done with whatever this is. This is a guide shirt. Hey, nice. It does look amazing. You're exactly right. Hey, Melba. Your turn. Here, have some denim pants. But it's very uncommon. Even books that I'm not particularly interested in, or TV shows that I'm not particularly interested in, I don't just turn them off. You know, I kind of watch through to a decent point. I'll watch an entire episode. I'll read an entire chapter. You know, these are... I'll go through one entire session of whatever this thing is. And it's not until the end of whatever session that we're talking about that I will then go, okay, you know what, I'm not going to do that again. It's actually very rare that I will. I can think of one instance off the top of my head. Only one, actually. Where I did reach a point that I did just stop. This is going to piss a lot of people off, actually. The one that I could not continue. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's very much not for me. The one thing that I watched and I could not continue watching was The Office. Now, I was watching the UK version of The Office, which, you know, I'm a big fan of Ricky Gervais, and I think it's Martin Freeman in that, right? I'm a big fan of them, so it kind of hurts me, actually, to say that, you know, I couldn't enjoy. Now, I might have to go back and try to rewatch it. I think my family got me the series on DVD. But I couldn't enjoy it. And it's not that I don't have... it's not that I don't appreciate that humor. I very much do. I enjoy, you know, that style of humor a lot, actually. And it's not that it's a, you know, British television show. I definitely enjoy British television shows. So it's not any of those. It's just that for some reason, it just didn't resonate with me. And I only was able to watch like 10, 15 minutes of the show, which I know is that's a considerable piece of a TV show. But I was really only able to watch 10 to 15 minutes of the show before I just paused it and just said, okay, I'm done. That's not common for me. And it shows just how much I wasn't enjoying myself. And I think I was sitting there, and if I think about it, and again, I have to actually go and try to watch this again, because this was a number of years ago now. But I think I was trying to watch it, and I thought to myself, I need something to happen. I need something to occur. I need, you know, I need to not just be watching. From what I remember of the episode I watched, it was basically just one, you know, cubicle employee annoying the piss out of another one, and that was about it. It was just pissing him off royally. Just with repeated, just obnoxious comments. But I remember just sitting there going, someone do something. Like, a story requires a conflict of some point. And this is not conflict, this guy's just annoying. And nothing's happening because the other guy is not rising to it, so nothing's going to happen. One guy is just being an annoying asshole, and the other one's just going to ignore them, and I don't know how bored I am watching one asshole annoy another one. Here, Renee. Have medicine. Here you go. Okay, so Renee's happy. We got a cardigan shirt combo because I need the same outfit that I keep on getting. Okay, I'll be right back to give you your actual gift of the day. So I don't know what it was about the show, but it just didn't grab me. But there's a lot of stuff that I can watch, and even though it's maybe not all that good, maybe it's, you know, not all of that fantastic, I can still sit and enjoy it. You know, there are video games I have played that were probably not good video games. If I'm gonna be honest with you, you know, what's a good example that's sitting on my shelf right now? You know, I would say that a lot of people would be hard-pressed to say that Enslaved Odyssey to the West was a good video game. You know, a lot of people are going to sit there and they're like, man, you know, this was, you know, combat. They tried to be God of War, but it wasn't all that good. The actual combat is just meh. The storyline is weird and it's all over the place. The graphics just okay. It kind of messes too much with the source material and doesn't have its own identity, yada yada, blah, blah, blah. We can criticize it all day long. I just enjoyed the game. I was watching a streamer I like play Star Fox Assault recently. And Star Fox Assault has a lot of issues. as a video game. And, you know, people who are familiar with that game know very much what those issues are. But it has a lot of issues as a video game. But, you know, I just sit back and I just enjoy Assault. It's like, okay, well, you know, I have some good Star Fox sections and some good, you know, on-rails shooters. And, you know, some of these sections are maybe not so good, but I can just kind of, you know, I'll just kind of get through them and I'll get to the portions that I enjoy again. It's not until later, if I sit back and I try to think very critically, that I can start seeing some of those issues. But just suspension of criticism kicks in. Suspension of disbelief. I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff being said about some of my favorite series or franchises that I never thought of. You know, when reading through some of my favorite books, for example, like reading through something like Harry Potter, is some of the most hysterical stuff. I never really thought, like, why didn't Harry just go get a gun and just freaking shoot Voldemort? Like, why did this not happen? Why did that not happen? You know, there's, you know, maybe Harry shouldn't because he's, you know, a 14-year-old. But if you go think about, like, all of the adults in the wizarding world, what exactly stops them from getting some freaking Muggle military hardware and just shooting him? Why? Like, what stops, you know, we know for a fact that the Minister of Magic, in the Harry Potter universe, meets up with the Minister of, the Prime Minister of England. What stopped him from getting, like, a a member of, I don't know, the English military, a sniper, to just post up and just shoot Voldemort the next time he pokes his head out? You know, I sit here and, so, you know, read the Dresden Files. One of the comments that Harry Dresden makes in one of the Dresden Files, which I found to be an amazing comment. In the Dresden Files, there's a thing that wizards can do known as their death curse. When a wizard knows he's about to die beyond the shadow of any doubt, he can reach down into his own internal power source. And this is, you know, what a wizard naturally uses to cast a spell. But when a wizard is about to die, he can reach in and take the very power of his life. Power that he would never normally touch because it could kill him, it could shorten his lifespan, but he'll grab the very power of his life and he will cast a curse on the one that killed him. And this could be more powerful than any spell people are normally able to see, and so it makes people very wary to kill a wizard in that universe, because if he knows you're coming, he's going to level that death curse at your head, and you're going to have to deal with something terrible. And we do see some very good examples of it. But eventually, in the storyline, Harry realizes that, you know, someone with the proper military hardware who's good at handling long-range rifles, if someone with a sniper rifle shot him from several blocks away, he'd be dead before he could ever muster the power to utter a death curse. And that's in, you know, the Dresden Files, where death curses are a thing that are known. It's an existing property that we know about. We don't really see that much in Harry Potter. But in Harry Potter, why? what stops the, you know, the wizarding world from getting Muggle weaponry to just freaking shoot Voldemort? Like, we see all these powers, all of these equipments, we see all of this strange stuff, and this just never happens. Yes, you could say that, you know, we could say a lot of things about how don't involve the Muggles. We could say a lot of things about, you know, how easy would it be to get the military running. We can talk a lot about what time period that Harry Potter set in, because it's set in, you know, late 80s, early 90s. But, you know, the Cold War was happening at the time, you know, not long before. You could just post this guy up as a terrorist and say, hey, this bald-headed, no-nosed freak is a terrorist. He's you know, he's somewhere in Albania. Can you just send your military in to make sure he doesn't kill us? And we know that freaking they did it. You know, if you remember reading through The Prisoner of Azkaban, the Minister of Magic outright tells the government of England. It doesn't necessarily outright say it's a connection to the Prime Minister, but the Minister of Magic outright tells the Prime Minister that Sirius Black is a is a serial killer who may be armed and gets kind of the muggles involved in searching for him. So we know they can do it. It just never freaking happens. And yes, there may be something going on in the books, in the chronology that makes it clear why Muggle weapons would never hurt Voldemort. There's probably something in there, let's be fair. But it's something that's not directly addressed, and so that's the whole suspension of disbelief thing. It never crossed my mind, either in reading the books or afterwards, that this was a thing that I should be thinking about. It just didn't happen. I never thought of it, because in the in-universe, it's never brought up. We never bring up how weird it is that some of these strange and incredible solutions that people could do just don't happen. And some of these are not all that strange and incredible. Some of the stuff is just like, why is it so hard for Harry to bring Muggle stuff into the world? We know there is stuff like, telephones, and it gets brought up once or twice, but telephones just never freaking happen in that world, and some of them would solve a lot of problems. Yes, it's the late 90s, late 80s, early 90s. But how hard would it have been for Harry to tell Sirius, hey, Sirius, I know you have a lot of access to gold, because freaking gold galleons in the universe. You have access to gold. It should be really easy for you to maybe parlay some of the, some gold, melt it down, get some money. Go buy yourself one of these gigantic brick cell phones. Let's communicate that way. We know for a fact that, Dumbledore doesn't pay attention to stuff like that. It would be very easy for us to talk to each other. Why are we talking through fireplaces when we could just use a goddamn cell phone? Or a pager, or a beeper, or something. I don't want to rip too much into Harry Potter. I love that series. I really appreciate Harry Potter as a series. But it's, in Dresden, so I'll bring up Dresden again because it's a good counterpoint. It's another magical series of Wizards. In the Dresden Files, the reason we don't see stuff like that is that in that universe, magic screws with modern technology. They don't really explain why. There's just something that goes on, higher order entropy or some nonsense that makes the more advanced technology it is, the more likely it is to fizzle when magic's being thrown around. So that's why Harry Dresden doesn't have access to this sort of thing. But these are, if I sit here and think and get a hair on my tongue that is bothering me. Bleh. But if I sit here and think, I can definitely think of complaints and inconsistencies I have with media that I play. I can definitely think of, video games that I enjoy. For example, this game right here. This game right here. A couple of my friends brought up that this game is a prime example. Here, have cubic parquet flooring. Okay, we get a Henley shirt. Great. But some of my friends brought up that this game is a prime example of Japanese weird game design. And what they said about this was that... No, I don't necessarily agree with this. With this series of thoughts. Oh, that's right, I have the camp stove. But what they said is that this is an example of... The players should not necessarily have things made easy for them. Things should not necessarily be convenient for the player. So, for example, the fact that tools take up inventory space and can break. For some reason, the Animal Crossing devs thought that was a good idea. That we can have breakable tools, that in a game that's all about relaxing and having fun and kind of wandering around, I have to be constantly on alert that my shit's gonna break and I'm gonna have to go remake it. Thus, stopping me from doing whatever thing I was interested in doing at the time. So things like that, the fact that it has this weird interface for picking a tool, and when you start, you gotta deal with this crap. You have to buy the upgraded interface. The fact that you have to actually go into a separate thing to be able to design your island. And it's not like an overhead view where you are directly interacting with the island or something like that. You know, an editor like we have for patterns. It's not one of those. It's you're doing this weird thing where you have to get individual blocks, knock them out. You know, people talk about how hard it is to set up, you know, cliffs and rivers. But these are things that I never... Yeah, I already know how to make gold armor, thank you. Okay. But these are things I never thought about. Like, I just enjoy this game. I just sit back and, you know, and relax and have fun. It never became a, What am I gonna give him? You know what? Here, just have a Hanley shirt. Let's just move on. Okay, you look good. I can't see you, but you look good. But these are things I never thought about. I never really... It did not consciously pass through my head that this was something that I should be considering. That these... not so much complaints, but these criticisms. They just didn't come up. It wasn't something I was thinking about. I think it's a powerful force. I think it's something that people don't use enough. You know... I think especially when we talk about discussions with other people, that some of those things, suspension of criticism especially, really should be an automatic. My company, the company I work for, when they were originally called Tribridge, when they were originally a pseudo-local Florida-based company, there was a number of things that they wanted me to do when I first signed on with the company. They asked me to do two things, and I'll admit, I thought they were a little bit hokey. I was having a hard time with the suspension of disbelief on these things. But, you know, I appreciated the thought. And the first thing they had me do was a personality test called Colors. And some of you may be familiar with it. The colors blue, green, gold, and orange. And the idea is, depending on what colors you are, it gives an idea of what type of personality you have. And the idea was that every employee in the company would show their colors on, like, their name badge and on their Skype. And it would give you an idea of how the employee best works and what to kind of expect when working with them. So my colors came up blue-green, and these were obvious to anybody who knows me, but blue being very, if I remember correctly, family-oriented, people-oriented. I want to talk to you. I want to know about your family. I want to check up on you. The interpersonal details are a little bit important to me. And then green being the more analytical. I want the facts, not necessarily the descriptions. I would like you to kind of get to the point on the discussions we're having. I don't remember necessarily all of the stuff because it, unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you feel about the color system. But fortunately or unfortunately, the system got basically abandoned when the company got merged into DXC. But I thought it was an interesting thing. Interesting, yes. I didn't think it was particularly useful. I thought it was, you know, a bunch of... I guess I would kind of say excuse is the word I would use. It's not really the word I want in this case, but it's the word I'm going to use. I thought it was an excuse for people not to understand each other. You know, really useful if you're working with someone you don't know. So, for example, if I'm working with someone brand new and I don't know what type of person they are, it really helps to know that, you know, for example, one of the colors is big picture folks. They really want loose descriptions of what's going on as opposed to a very fact-based definite picture. So I prefer, you know, I don't need the description. I don't need the background. You don't have to give me this big exposition. Just tell me the facts and tell me what you need me to do. Whereas some people, they want the big picture. They want to know how everything fits together. They want to know how it all works together. And, you know, sometimes I want that, but that's not necessarily an important thing to me. Some people are very goals-oriented. The entire idea behind colors is that it would tell you what type of people you're working with. That would make it a lot easier to work together. So that was one thing they did, and again, I thought it was pretty hokey. I didn't really, my uncle, who was the director of HR at the time. Can you get in my net, please? Thank you. My uncle was the director of HR, and he thought this was a really big deal, and he pegged me as blue-green right out the gate, and he thought it was, he thought this was going to be a very big deal. So, out of respect for him, I went along with it, and look, I'll admit, it was fairly useful for a short period of time when it was being used, because it gave me a better idea of who I was working with. But personally, I feel that just asking questions and having a sense for people also would tell you all these details. So making a big deal out of this is maybe a little less useful. But also, it's a cool ritual. It's a cool welcome to the company thing that lets the new employee know, hey, part of what this company is we care about you as a person, about how you interact with people. We want you to get along. We want our people to work together. So that was definitely one thing. But one of the other things that they talked about was the assumption of positive intent, which this wasn't a very important thing for me, actually, because sometimes I stumble over my words. I know that on videos I end up appearing very articulate, and I talk a lot. Very, very fast speaker. And these are very true things. But I do sometimes have trouble getting my point across to people, especially when we're having a more heated discussion, or especially when I'm trying to kind of convince someone of doing things my way. And sometimes I have to kind of, mold the words I want to say and try to rearrange them to fit from how I'm thinking of it into someone else's head, because I'm thinking of it in terms of how I think and not how in terms of they think. And sometimes this ends up getting someone into trouble, me or someone else, because there are misunderstandings and annoyance on both sides as I'm trying to get my point across and someone doesn't really understand what point I'm trying to make, or they misunderstand the point I'm trying to make. And vice versa. Sometimes I misunderstand as well. And so the idea behind the assumption of positive intent is that, look, I already know music stand. Damn. But the idea behind assumption of positive intent is, look, there's going to be these miscommunications, and people are going to come across wrong. Some people are going to have a bad day, and they're not going to be, they're not going to be polite. They're not going to be nice. There's going to be things that are going to happen that are not particularly pleasant, and people could potentially get upset. And so just assumption of positive intent is, look, assume that the person that you're talking to is not trying to be a jerk. Assume that they're not trying to get on your last nerve, and they're not trying to give you more work. Just assume at the end of the day that the people you're working with are generally good people that you want to work with, and that whatever annoyance it is you're feeling is just a misunderstanding, a miscommunication, and work from there. Now, obviously, there are jerks out there that could misconstrue this, or take advantage of this. But at the end of the day, it's ended up helping. There's been a lot of cases where I'll be sitting there going, man, this person is, this person's trying to take advantage of me. They're trying to get me to do work that, they just don't want to do. And then I said, you know what? Hold on. Maybe they're overworked and I have some extra time. I do have extra bandwidth. Let me help them out. Or maybe this thing that they're saying is actually on the up and up. And, I just don't really understand the context. And I've gotten the same in response. Most of the people I work with are generally extremely pleasant. I have one of my coworkers. He's technically like a pseudo superior to me, and a slightly better subject matter expert at the program I work on than I am. I'll turn to him when I have a question that's kind of weird, when there's a thing that doesn't work the way I think it will. And I was talking to him yesterday, and I was asking if he had a solution for a problem I had. And the problem ended up being extremely simple, and there was an extremely simple solution that I just didn't think about because I was making things far, far too complicated. And, I thanked him for his help, and he's like, no problem, man, I always enjoy these questions you have, but usually they're more interesting. And, but it was a statement that he's happy to help and he enjoys the things, whereas I might think that I'm bothering him because I've asked him for help so often. But he made it clear, no, he really, he enjoys it. So the idea of, assuming positive intent. Assume at the end of the day, even if things do seem to be negative or unpleasant, assume that they weren't intended to be that way and go from there. And there's just, so it's, we talk about suspension of disbelief and the suspension of criticism. In this case, it's, suspension of pessimism, I guess? Preventing yourself from assuming the worst. But these are powerful things, and I think it's a really useful thing for people who can actively do this. For me, hey, we actually got something cool. For me, suspension of blank. You can choose whatever you want to say here, but suspension of blank for me is it's an automatic thing in most cases. Suspension of disbelief especially. What did we get? So we have Spinoskull. Neat. Only 7 fossils left. We got a Spinoskull, and it means the Spinosaurus is complete. Yeah, talk to me about it. Spinosaurus was a very large carnivorous dinosaur, roughly the size of a T-Rex. Unlike its more famous cousin, however, Spinosaurus seems to have spent a great deal of time in water, similar to modern crocodiles, and, this creature lived on a diet of fish and land-dwelling animals. Personally, I am simply relieved that it did not seek flying prey. Neat. Let's go take a look at it. But for me, it's too easy to slip in. Like, I don't... As soon as I choose to partake, it just turns off. I just do not have that criticism in me. And I couldn't tell you why. I couldn't tell you why that's the case. But just for some reason, it just doesn't exist for me. Let's see. Who is it? It's not going to be you, right? Is it you? Yep. And the T-Rex back there. Nice. Looking good. I find it, I don't know, I find it too easy to just enjoy. And I think part of it is that just at this point in my life, and this has been the case for a number of years, but at a certain point in my life, I stopped wanting to criticize. I say this, and then you'll watch me play League of Legends. I was streaming that last night, and I was aware while streaming the words that were coming out of my mouth. But I'll also, when I'm playing a multiplayer game, I'll criticize people who are not doing well. We were playing, a lot of Final Fantasy XIV, doing a lot of dungeon diving, and whenever there's a bad healer or a bad tank, I can't help myself. I can't stop myself from going, oh my god, this tank's so bad. When playing League of Legends, I can't help, get irritated at the jungler who is not controlling Dragon, or who is not controlling Rift Herald or Baron, or who isn't ganking. Now, part of it for me, it's anti-salt. I know it sounds a little bit weird to say, yeah, I'm complaining, and it's getting rid of my upset, but it's very true. Hey, look, I have a thing. But it's very true, actually. For me, whining about it, essentially, is actually an anti-salt measure. It actually makes me less annoyed when I do it, because it basically just gets it out of my system. Okay, look, I whined about it, I was annoyed, I said a thing, and now it's done. Let's move on. That's usually how I do it. So, I talk about suspension of criticism, suspension of disbelief, and then you'll sit here and you'll be like, but I've watched you play games, and you criticize all the time. Generally, I just sit down and I just say, I'm just going to enjoy this. I'm just going to have fun. There are exceptions, but that's kind of the general statement. And it's definitely one of those things that I think more people need to do. I end up hearing a lot of, a lot of complaints about certain media or certain things. I hear a lot of people, saying, God, this sucked, or this wasn't as good as I thought it was, or, and for a lot of people, I sit here thinking, man, did you go into this wanting it to suck? Because that's what I'm hearing. Ooh, steampunk costume. Nice. Okay, so that's what that was in the window. Okay. Let's see. Nothing really special otherwise, though. So let's go ahead and grab a steampunk outfit. Okay, well, that's going to be about it for today, y'all. We talked basically entirely about suspension of disbelief, suspension of criticism, suspension of pessimism. And realistically, those are the things that I would love to hear from you guys on in the comments. You know, those are three different things. Suspension of disbelief, so the willingness to enjoy. You know, one thing I didn't talk about, I'll just briefly mention, suspension of disbelief when you're talking to someone or debating someone about a topic that is important to you. So politics, for example. Suspension of disbelief, so that way you can listen to their argument, listen to what they say, and instead of immediately rejecting it outright and going, no, this doesn't exist the way you said it did, shut up. Instead of saying that, being able to say, you know what, I wonder if there's a point to what they're saying. You know, normally I wouldn't listen to this sort of thing because I think it's stupid, but let me just suspend that disbelief for a second and kind of acknowledge what they're saying and maybe see if there's some validity to it. With suspension of disbelief, so the ability to turn off the skeptic or turn off the person that says that this doesn't make sense. Suspension of criticism, the ability to turn off your inner critic and just kind of sit back and enjoy a piece of media for what it is. And then suspension of pessimism, the ability to turn off the feeling inside of you, or that little piece of you that feels that things are bad, or things are being done intentionally bad, or things that are going to turn bad. Just the ability to turn these off, these things, and just simply enjoy something, or simply exist as you would. I think these are all incredibly important skills that, frankly, I think most people should have and do not have. So, do let me know what you feel about that. Do you guys, do you find it easy to do these things? Do you find it, easy to actually suspend that disbelief? Or do you find yourself constantly critiquing, constantly looking at videos and movies and going, man, this doesn't fit, this doesn't work, this isn't realistic? Is that something that you guys have problems with? I'm kind of curious. For criticism, do you find yourself watching media and, sitting there and saying to yourself, still need appealing scenery. Okay. Okay, we're good on trees, though. But do you find media, and do you just sit there going, man, this is shit? The graphics are bad, the actors suck, Are you the type of person who does sit there and you criticize media that you watch? Or are you the type of person who can just, settle in and say, you know what? I kind of enjoy this. I'm good with what I'm seeing. And then you maybe criticize it afterwards. Are you that type of person? Are you, and then also, remember we were talking about the suspension of pessimism. Are you the type of person who can go, you know what? Things could be bad, but I'm just going to kind of ignore that fact and enjoy it for what it is now, and we can be worried about it later. You could say that this is optimism, but I don't agree. I don't think it's optimism to be able to suspend your pessimism. I think it's a little bit different. I think it's just in this place, in this time, we're going to just not think those bad thoughts. We can talk about them later, but right now, it's not being optimistic. But it's not being pessimistic, and by choice. So let me know, how do you feel about these things? Are these things that you can do? Are these things you think are silly? Is it something that's automatic for you? Have doing these things allowed you to enjoy a form of media that you would not have otherwise enjoyed? I do want to hear, so let me know. As always, hitting that like button does help me out. It makes these videos easier to find for people who are searching for more content. I'd like to be able to spread smiles and make people enjoy themselves to as many people as possible, so hitting that like button actually does help me out and makes me happy too. If you want to see more of these videos, please hit that subscribe button. Not only does it make my numbers look good, and believe me, I appreciate every single person who hits subscribe, because I get notifications on most of them. At the very least, I get to see a number that says, hey, you have X more subscriber this month. But it does alert you whenever I upload a video. I'm uploading 3 videos a day right now. One for Terraria, one for La Mulana 2, and one for my daily ranting on Animal Crossing. So it'll let you know when those videos go up. You can also join me on Twitch, where I do live streams. Depending on what game I just feel like playing, I play all kinds of stuff on there. So Skies of Arcadia yesterday, I'm playing a little bit of Lobotomy Corporation. I'm just kind of playing whatever feels good at the time. But if you want to watch me live, you can follow me on Twitch. And then also you can come join me in Discord, and I would love to have you there. I love talking to you guys directly. You know, chit-chatting about stuff, asking your opinions, things like that. You know, we were asking about what the new emote's going to be recently, and having opinions on that would be nice. But also being able to say, hey, you know, I'm feeling like 2 different games. They're a game that you guys would prefer to see. Or, you know, I'm looking into doing this. You know, what is your opinion on that? It's actually very helpful stuff that I would love to hear. So the Discord, links in the description of the video. It would be also lovely if you guys could come join me on that. And then also, I use Discord to let you guys know when I'm going live with a new Twitch stream if you want to join live. So all very cool stuff. Let me know if I can do anything. I love you all. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.